1 week ago, the United States entered Venezuela and seized its president. 6 days ago, the White House announced that using American forces is always an option to take Greenland from Denmark. 5 days ago, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said words that no leader in 77 years of NATO has ever had to say. Quote, "If the United States chooses to move against another NATO country, then everything stops. That is, including our NATO, and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War." End quote. A NATO ally is now publicly preparing for the possibility that the United States might use force against them. This is not a drill. This is not hypothetical. This is happening in real time. When Stephen Miller was asked on CNN whether the administration would rule out force against Greenland, he did not say no. Instead, he said, quote, "Nobody is going to fight the United States over the future of Greenland," end quote. He said that like it was obvious, like the absence of resistance makes the action acceptable. This analysis examines exactly what is happening with Greenland, why Trump wants it, what Denmark is doing about it, how Republicans in Congress are responding, and why this crisis threatens to shatter the most successful alliance in modern history. The basic facts deserve attention first. Greenland is the world's largest island. It sits between North America and Europe, with more than 2/3 of its territory inside the Arctic Circle. Its population is approximately 57,000 people, mostly indigenous Greenlanders. That is fewer people than live in many small American cities. Greenland is not an independent country. It is a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Denmark has controlled it since 1721. That is 55 years before the United States even existed as a nation. Under a 2009 agreement, Greenland has broad autonomy over its domestic affairs, but Denmark still handles defense and foreign policy. And Greenland remains part of NATO through Denmark's membership. The United States already has a major presence in Greenland. Pituffik Space Base, formerly known as Thule Air Base, sits on the northwest coast. It has been there since 1951 under a defense agreement with Denmark. The base hosts critical early warning radars that would detect any ballistic strikes coming over the Arctic toward North America. About 150 American personnel are stationed there today. The United States already has everything it needs in Greenland for national security purposes: a base, early warning systems, treaty access. Denmark has consistently cooperated with American security requirements. So why does Trump say America needs to own it? The president offered his explanation on Friday, quote, "We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we do not do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we are not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor," end quote. He also dismissed Denmark's centuries-long claim to the territory. Quote, "The fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago does not mean that they own the land. I am sure we had lots of boats go there also," end quote. This is the president of the United States dismissing the sovereignty of a NATO ally based on the logic that boats landed places. The actual strategic situation requires examination. Greenland does guard crucial geography. The Gjöt Gap runs between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. NATO has monitored Russian naval movements through this gap since the Cold War. Greenland's position means that any Russian missiles launched at the United States would fly over its territory. That is why the early warning radars matter. But experts say Trump is getting the analysis wrong. Marion Messmer, director of the International Security Program at Chatham House, wrote this week, quote, "What is not clear is why Washington needs full control over Greenland to defend itself. The U.S. already has a presence there at Pituffik Space Base," end quote. The 1951 defense agreement already gives America extensive rights. Ships, aircraft, and vehicles can move freely across Greenland's territory and territorial waters. The treaty has no expiration date. Denmark has offered to expand American presence further. The national security argument does not hold up under scrutiny. What else could be driving this? Rare earth minerals. Greenland holds some of the world's largest untapped reserves of rare earth elements. These are the critical materials that go into electric vehicles, wind turbines, smartphones, and advanced defense systems. China currently dominates global rare earth processing, controlling roughly 90% of refining capacity. A 2023 survey found that 25 of the 34 minerals the European Commission classifies as critical raw materials exist in Greenland. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates Greenland holds between 36 and 42 million metric tons of rare earth oxides. That would be the second largest reserve in the world after China. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was explicit about this a year ago. Quote, "This is about critical minerals. This is about natural resources," end quote. But the administration is not telling the full story. Mining experts say the rare earth argument collapses under scrutiny. Anthony Marchese, chairman of Texas Mineral Resources Corporation, testified before Congress about Greenland. Quote, "If you are going to go to Greenland for its minerals, you are talking billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, an extremely long time before anything ever comes of it," end quote. The climate is brutal. The infrastructure is virtually non-existent. In 2021, Greenland's parliament banned uranium mining, which blocked several major rare earth projects because uranium appears as a byproduct. The United States has its own rare earth reserves estimated at 1.9 million metric tons. That is more than Greenland's estimated 1.5 million tons. If America wanted rare earths, it could develop its own deposits. The mineral argument does not hold up either. This leaves an uncomfortable question. What is really driving this? Some analysts believe it is simply about Trump's personality. He proposed buying Greenland in 2019 during his first term. Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen called the idea absurd. "Greenland is not for sale," she said. Trump canceled his planned state visit to Denmark in response. Perhaps he never got over that rejection, but whatever the motivation, the consequences are deadly serious. The timeline of the past week tells the story. On Saturday, January 4th, the United States entered Venezuela and seized President Nicolas Maduro. This was done without congressional notification or approval. Maduro was transported to New York to face federal charges. On Sunday, January 5th, Trump told reporters he absolutely wants Greenland and would revisit the topic soon. Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, posted a map of Greenland colored with the American flag and captioned it "soon." On Monday, January 6th, the White House confirmed that using forces is always an option to acquire Greenland. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Trump is exploring a range of options. That same day, Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen issued her historic warning. If the United States chooses to move against another NATO country, everything stops, including NATO. 7 European leaders responded with a joint statement, signed by the leaders of Denmark, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Poland, and Spain. They wrote, quote, "Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland," end quote. On Tuesday, January 7th, White House Press Secretary Leavitt doubled down. Quote, "Utilizing U.S. forces is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal," end quote. European Council President Antonio Costa responded, quote, "The European Union cannot